When the plane wheels touched the Sydney runway, I remember staring out the window and feeling both relief and dread. I had made it, but I had nothing waiting for me. No job, no apartment, no one to call. The airport was full of laughter, hugs, and people rushing to reunite with loved ones. I stood there pretending to scroll through my phone, just so I wouldn't look as lost as I felt. The air smelled different, cleaner, sharper, and the sun was brighter than I imagined. As I walked outside, the noise hit me: bus engines, chatter, luggage wheels clacking against the pavement. Everyone seemed to know where they were going except me. I dragged my 2 suitcases toward the exit and realized that every decision from this moment on would decide if I made it here or went back home a failure. It wasn't fear that hit me first, it was the weight of starting over from zero, in a country that didn't even know my name. That night, I couldn't find anywhere affordable to stay. Every hostel I checked online was booked, and I didn't have enough on my card for a hotel deposit. So I wandered until I found a 24-hour cafe near Central Station and sat by the window, pretending to study my phone like I was waiting for someone. I ordered a small coffee and made it last 6 hours. Around me, people laughed, shared fries, checked their watches before catching the last train home. I had no home to go to. At 2 a.m., my phone battery died, cutting off the only light and connection I had. I looked out at the dark street, wondering if I had made the biggest mistake of my life. A homeless man sitting outside the cafe caught my eye. He smiled, toothless but kind, and said, "You new here?" I nodded. He pointed to a spot by the heater and said, "It's warmer here, mate." That moment stayed with me, my first night in Australia, and it was a stranger who showed me more kindness than anyone else. The next morning, I started walking the streets with a notepad full of places that might hire me. I tried supermarkets, restaurants, even small corner stores. Everyone asked the same questions. Do you have experience? Do you have references? Do you have an ABN? I didn't even know what an ABN was. My confidence started to crack after the 10th rejection. I remember walking into a construction site, the smell of dust and diesel heavy in the air. I asked the foreman if he needed any help. I could carry, sweep, do anything. He glanced at me and said, "You look too clean to work here." I laughed awkwardly, but it hurt. That night, I searched what ABN meant and how to apply for one. I filled out the form with trembling hands, hoping it would make a difference. The next day, I returned to another site, this time covered in dust from sitting near a busy road. It didn't help. "Sorry, mate, we are full." I walked away again, feeling invisible, wondering how long I could survive before my money ran out completely. After 2 weeks, I had just enough coins for 1 meal a day. I learned where supermarkets threw out expired food and which churches offered free lunches on weekends. I'd line up quietly, take whatever they gave, and always say thank you, not because I was polite, but because I was grateful to still be standing. One night, I walked past a bakery and saw the owner locking up. I asked if I could help clean in exchange for leftovers. He stared at me for a moment, then handed me a broom. That night, I swept floors and wiped tables for 3 hours, and he gave me a bag full of unsold pastries. I sat outside under a streetlight and ate a croissant like it was a feast. Each bite reminded me that pride was a luxury I couldn't afford here. I met others like me, international students juggling 3 jobs, backpackers running out of cash, locals barely scraping rent. We didn't talk much, but when we passed each other in those quiet streets, we nodded. That nod meant, "I see you. I know. Keep going." It happened on a random Tuesday afternoon, one of those days when I was too tired to expect anything good. I was sitting in that same cafe again, nursing a cheap coffee, when a man dropped his phone beside me. I picked it up, noticed the screen had frozen, and helped him reset it. We got talking. He told me he ran a small delivery company and asked what I was doing for work. I laughed. Honestly, nothing yet. He studied me for a moment, then asked if I had a driver's license. I did. 2 days later, I was delivering packages around Sydney in a beat-up white van that smelled like petrol and coffee cups. It wasn't glamorous, but it was something. When I got my first paycheck, I stared at it for a long time, not because of the amount, but because it was proof I could survive here. I took a photo of it, not to post online, but to remind myself that one act of kindness, helping a stranger fix his phone, had changed everything. Once I started working, I began learning how Australia really worked, how every small thing connected to something bigger. I applied for a tax file number, opened my first local bank account, and learned how rent bonds and payslips worked. Each step made me feel a little less like a visitor and more like a resident. I rented a small room in a shared house with 3 others, a student from India, a guy from Nigeria, and a woman from the Philippines. We barely had furniture, just mattresses on the floor and a single fan that everyone fought over at night. But that house felt like hope. We'd sit on the porch, share stories about home, and laugh about how expensive everything was. It wasn't easy, but for the first time, I wasn't alone. Every bill I paid, every shift I finished, every small win, it felt like laying one brick toward a new life. I found my first real sense of belonging at a community center in Parramatta. A friend from work told me they hosted weekend meetups for immigrants trying to settle in. I went out of curiosity, but ended up staying for hours. There were people from everywhere: Pakistan, Brazil, South Africa, Malaysia, all with the same mix of exhaustion and determination in their eyes. We shared stories about our first jobs, laughed about accents, swapped advice on cheap rentals and visa renewals. Someone brought homemade food, and that alone felt like home. That's where I learned something powerful. When you're far from home, your community becomes your survival tool. We didn't have much, but we had each other, and that made the loneliness fade. Those small gatherings reminded me why I came here in the first place, not just to survive, but to connect. One afternoon, while delivering a package to a local cafe, the owner asked if I wanted to learn coffee art. I thought he was joking. He wasn't. After my shift, I started staying late, watching how he poured milk into perfect swirls. My first attempts were terrible, blobs instead of hearts, but he kept encouraging me. It's not about perfection, he said. It's about patience. Within months, I became one of the cafe's regular baristas. The first time a customer complimented my coffee, I smiled so hard my cheeks hurt. I wasn't just earning money now, I was earning pride. I saved up and moved into a small studio apartment near the train line. It wasn't big, but it was mine. I could finally sleep without worrying about being kicked out or running out of food. The sound of trains passing by my window became my new alarm clock, a daily reminder of how far I'd come. I learned that survival in Australia isn't about luck, it's about endurance. You adapt fast or you fall behind. You learn how to smile even when you're breaking inside. You learn that silence is not weakness. Sometimes, it's just strength taking a breath. Every act of kindness meant something. The bakery owner who let me clean for food, the driver who gave me my first job, the cafe owner who believed in me. Australia tested me in ways I didn't expect, mentally, emotionally, financially. But in every test, I found a piece of myself I didn't know existed. I learned that starting from zero doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're being rebuilt, stronger, quieter, more grounded. I stopped chasing comfort and started chasing purpose. Now, years later, I still walk past that 24-hour cafe near Central Station, the same one where I once sat with nothing but fear and coffee. Every time, I stop and look through the glass. It's strange seeing people sitting where I once sat, scrolling their phones, maybe lost, maybe dreaming. I order a cup, leave a big tip, and sometimes slip a few extra notes under someone's saucer if they look like they need it. I don't do it for gratitude. I do it because I know what it feels like to have nothing but hope. Australia didn't hand me a new life, it gave me the chance to build one. And in the end, that's the real dream. To arrive with nothing, and somehow, through struggle and kindness, become someone new. If you made it this far, thank you. Not everyone sees the struggle behind a fresh start. If this story moved you, hit subscribe, because every week, we share real stories of people starting over across the world. And if you've ever had to rebuild your life from nothing, tell me in the comments. Where did your journey begin?